Hey guys, good afternoon. So today in this workshop, I'm going to be covering three more companies in the NBFC space. So NBFC means like we are going to be covering now the financial part of the financial part of the themes that we are covering in this opportunities ka workshop. Okay. So let's just share the presentation and we get started. Okay, I hope the screen is visible to everybody. Okay, so the first company that we are going to cover is Credit Axis Grameen. Okay, so let me share the slideshow. Okay, so Credit Axis Grameen is an NBFC which is focused in the deep rural regions of this country. Okay, so you can also pause the video and you can see like whenever we do an NBFC or a bank or any financial, first we have to understand who are the target customer base of that particular NBFC, and say for example what are the kind of loans that they're giving. Right, kind of loans is remembered like what we did with the workshops of Arman and Mass and IIFLs. Like first we have to understand the process. Like what is the geography that they cater to, who are the target customers, what is the kind of and the nature of the loan, whether the nature of loan is microfinance or any other kind. We first have to figure these things out, and then we move on to things like what is the growth in the loan book, what is the source of borrowing for this company, then the asset quality, right? And then we look at profitability, and we ended up with the ROE numbers and the management outlook. That is exactly the checklist that you should be following when you're analyzing any financials, whether it's banks or NBFCs. Specifically, like many people come and ask me, like, what's the difference between banks and NBFCs when we come to analyzing? NBFCs are way more niche. NBFCs cater to way more niche geographies and their portfolio is way more concentrated than the portfolio of say banks, right? So NBFCs in good times do much better than banks if that one particular tailwind comes in that one particular sector, right? Like for example, what's happening with the whole microfinance space, and you would also understand like why am I focusing a lot on the microfinance space, because there is a lot of tailwind in that space. Microfinance, SMEs, MSMEs, right? Over, let's say, a diversified big bank which has a microfinance division, but then that division is a very small percentage to the overall book of the bank. So that's why even if the microfinance space does very well, the bank won't do that well because it's a very small percentage of the total book. So coming back to CA Grameen, it is again in the space of microfinance. CA Grameen is basically an NBFC which has literally has penetrated into the deeper hinterlands of India, tier 5, 6, 7 cities and villages. And as the name suggests, right, Credit Axis Grameen. Grameen comes from the word gram, which is villages, right? So you can clearly see like most trusted financial partner of low income rural underbanked household. So this is the niche of CA Grameen, right? Ek to that has to be low income, second it has to be rural, and the third, the customers must be underbanked. So these are the customers who generally don't have access to formal credit, right? And these are the customers that CA Grameen targets. And of course, lacking access to formal credit. Socio-economic catalyst in deep rural areas. So if you look at CA Grameen and many other NBFCs, like there are NBFCs which cater to tier 2, 3, 4 cities ka people. But CA Grameen is a deep rural play in India. So if you want to play the rural demand credit cycle in India, CA Credit Axis Grameen becomes a very good play, right? And of course, you can read the other things as well when you read about this. Like you can pause the video and you can read the other part. Let's move on to the next slide. Okay, so now you can understand this, right? From pre-COVID. Now, again, there is a lot of confusion, right? People think like when we talk about a Credit Axis Grameen or an Arman Financials, one of the first thing that comes is fear in the mind of people, right? Because the point is like people feel like, oh, if you're catering to the rural population of this country, if you're catering to the underbanked, underbanked people, you must be a risky model and we won't invest. But that is not the reason. So these particular institutions like an Arman, Credit Axis Grameen, they have built their niche and expertise into lending into these categories only. You have to understand this, right? Of course, there will be rate of failures for institutions and companies here and there, right? I mean, we can't live in a world where there is no failure, but we shouldn't generalize things in our mind. Like, oh, if you're catering to the rural people, then you must be having high NPAs and you must, and then you must blow up in the future. No. So we have to track companies and we have to take investment decisions accordingly. Having said that, if let's say, for example, a credit axis Grameen's, like, like they fall into trouble in the future, we have to sell the stock and get out. If let's say we are holding it today. So that's how I'm looking at it. So here, just to remove the cloud of, the cloud of uncertainty on these kind of spaces, just look at how the loan book has grown in the last 4 or 5 years. And and you guys have also known, right? Okay, like the loan book has grown at 31% CAGR. That means it has absolutely trebled in 5 years. And that also when we had a pandemic in between 2021 and 2023. So that also shows, okay, like even when there was a pandemic in play, yet they were able to, grow the book to 3x in the last 5 years, right? And also you can also see that active borrower base has also gone up by 15% in the same time period. Of course, having said that, this company also suffered a bit because you can see that the borrower base did went down in those COVID years. But as soon as COVID goes out of the picture, the borrower base starts coming back up. You can also see the branch network of CA Grameen. You can literally see that the branch network. So this is one more thing why I keep telling people, like always look at the rate at which the companies are opening branches. So you do now understand, like the AUM ka growth rate is 31% CAGR and the branch network ka growth is 28% CAGR, right? So if you increase, because I think you guys would remember me telling you this again and again, like say if you are lending to the underbanked, if you're lending to the rural people, you have to give low ticket size items, right? And you have to give low ticket size items to millions of people. So you have to be constantly in the mode of expansion. Got it? Because if you don't expand, then in that existing book problems can arise. So the only point is, because everybody knows, since they are low ticket size items and since they are risky customers, the yield is also very high on these loans, right? So defaults will automatically be way more in these kind of institutions, but these institutions will also make more money on one loan or like lending to one customer than let's say any large private sector bank, right? Because वहां पे default rate कम होगा. So this is the trade-off, right? Like the trade-off is like higher the credit cost, I am willing to take a higher credit cost and I'm willing to even take higher provisions in my book, even if let's say for example I have a high yield on my portfolio, right? And I have a high NIMs on my portfolio. Whereas let's say for example, if you look for a big bank will hardly have any credit cost. But then if you have very low credit cost, that means also your yield will also be lower. Customers will be of very high quality. But the higher the quality of customers, lower will be the money that you can get from the customers. So that's why people from the cities, right? For example, if you give a loan to, let's say for example, a corporate like Tata, the loan will not have a default because Tata will never default, most likely. But then your corporate loan can give you a yield of 6, 7, 8%, right? Because Tatas don't lead loans. But on the other hand, if you give it to an SME and the MSMEs or to the rural joint lending group people, you might also understand like they might default, that the chances of default are much higher than Tatas. That is why you would probably need hundreds of MSMEs. You should be lending smaller amounts to hundreds of MSMEs because you need to diversify that loan book there, right? Because at the end of the day, 5, 6 MSMEs might not return your money, but the money that comes back from the existing MSMEs, the profits that you make is more than the money that you lose in those MSMEs when they lose the money. Here you can take all the money and you can give a bulk money to that one Tata Group company, right? So you have less hard work है, इसलिए yield भी कम है. So it's basically like if you're invested in a big bank, it's like investing in the Nifty and Sensex stocks, right? But if you're investing in these MSMEs and the SMEs and the rural backed NBFCs, it's like investing in the micro cap and the small cap universe. That's why you need to have more diversification in the small cap and the penny cap world than you can have diversification in the large cap world, right? So that's how you can find an analogy to it. Okay, so you can understand like where are they present. So they are mostly into Karnataka, Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, and they are now slowly building their presence in Orissa, then UP, Rajasthan, Gujarat, MP, and Chhattisgarh. But having said that, you can clearly see here their market share is the largest in Karnataka and then followed by in Maharashtra. Of course, this is also a good sign because I really like NBFCs which are mostly in places like Karnataka, Gujarat, Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, because these are the richest states of the country. If I see NBFCs more towards, right, you saw what happened to Bandhan Bank. Bandhan Bank fell into so much trouble because a large part of their book was in West Bengal and Assam, right? And West Bengal, Assam, Bihar, the northeastern states, I mean, they are not as developed and they are not as rich. If you look at the state government ka situation in West Bengal, I can tell you, because I am from Calcutta, I know, right? The state government treasury literally has no money with them, right? So in West Bengal, there will be far more problems, right, than let's say in states like Gujarat and Karnataka. Although I'm not trying to generalize it. I mean, of course, a company in West Bengal can come and do well than let's say a company in Karnataka. Not trying to like, like case to case me, I'm not saying anything. But on a generic level, right? So on a generic level, it feels good for me if the NBFC or if the the bank is catering more towards customers of these kind of states. Okay, here again another thing to just to get it out of the window. Okay, like like you have constantly seen, right? This is exactly what the company has also been trying to tell you. Okay, during demonetization and during COVID period, look at how the company has maintained the ROE and the ROA numbers, right? Because at the end of the day, the ROE number is the holy grail of any financial company. So if you can clearly see here, right, what was the ROE number before COVID? It was between 12 and 22% के आसपास. ठीक है. Of course, the ROE number will keep fluctuating because these are very small NBFCs. These are rural backed NBFCs. So यहाँ पे थोड़ा fluctuation होगा ही, right? But यहाँ पे if you see this, they even in COVID also, just like you saw in Arman Financials, इनका ROE number घट गया, but इनका ROE negative में नहीं गया. मतलब क्या? मतलब during the deepest and the worst period also, these companies were able to show some kind of profits. Matlab inka the asset book is not as bad as what is thought, right? So that is why, and again you can see from 4% the number has gone up to 18%. Stocks are also back up to all-time highs, right? So these are the kind of things that you must understand. Whether, I mean, in the last 5 years, right, if they were so much risky, if the inherent genetic thought is like, oh, it's risky, I will not look at it, not look into it that much further, then how did they survive floods and NBFC crisis and demonetization and COVID and can come out clean on the other side, right? So the difference is this. Even when I started my journey in learning about the financial markets, मेरा पहला initial reaction वही था कि सिर्फ बड़ा बैंक से लेना है. But then slowly I understood after I, because I've been tracking companies like CA Grameen for the last 2 to 3 years at least. Now I understand that they have built a niche. It's like their expertise in a very niche field, which probably most banks cannot get. That is why you see banks are now partnering with NBFCs to give out loans. Because see, banks only has the capital, but NBFCs have the niche, they have the geography, they have the distribution, they know the customers, they even know the family members of the customers. वो लोग इतने detail level में जाते हैं, ठीक है? So that is why banks cannot do any other thing other than just giving capital. And NBFCs need capital, right? NBFCs lack capital, but they have the reach and the niche, and banks have the capital. So that's why co-lending is becoming a better idea, even more than securitization, where there is portfolio selling. Very similarly, again, if you see right from COVID, how the asset quality has improved for CA Grameen. First, understand this. Of course, this is between the first and the second wave of COVID, where of course you saw, right, like not only for CA Grameen but for any financial, right, because they had to provide more and all those things. That's why the NPA numbers went up, because collections came down. NPA number is indirectly proportional to the collection efficiency. So during COVID, when there was lockdown, CA Grameen could not go and collect the money from the customers. Plus, of course, customer ka business bhi band tha, right? I mean, if you're a small kirana store owner, or if you are into animal husbandry, right? These are the people for whose family income ke liye to paisa dete hai CA Grameen, so that they can get get an income started for their family. So here you can clearly see here after COVID, look at the way how the numbers are coming down, right? So this shows what? This shows that the asset quality has improved drastically, and this was when COVID actually came, right? So now their asset quality is you can clearly say is as good as the pre-COVID level ka asset quality. Similarly, in the microfinance industry also, this is a good example. This is actually a very good slide. So they also say, even look at this, even the microfinance space as a whole, unka bhi asset quality is improving, right? Right? You can see this PAR 30. PAR is portfolio at risk, right? Portfolio at risk from 30 days to 180 days. मतलब कितना EMI लोगों ने नहीं दिया है between 1 EMI miss किया है and to let's say to 5 EMI to 10 EMIs miss किया है. उस एंगल से आप देखिए. And even look at this number is also come down to 3.8%. But having said that, you do also understand that यहाँ पे there is one more reason why CA Grameen has given this example. They are showing this to let you know that they are now in a better stage than the than the microfinance industry as a whole. Okay, now look at this, a very, very strong set of numbers. Now, this is something that, of course, you guys know, right? I keep posting results on Twitter and everything. Look at the AUM, that is the loan book, right? And of course, CA Grameen ka majority loan book hai unka towards the microfinance space here. So the AUM ka growth, look at this, 26% YOY, 18% quarter on quarter. And now their book is at 20,000 crore. By the way, I think they are one of the largest microfinance companies in this country. And I think they said that in the call. Disbursements are up 48% quarter on quarter. So can you see from last quarter to this quarter, they have really been aggressive, right? And why are they aggressive? Because you know, right, from this slide, right? Now they can afford to be aggressive because their asset quality is improving. So the disbursements have gone up 48%, almost 50% quarter on quarter, and 23% YOY. Can you see this? The PAT is up 93% YOY. Now, why is there increase in PAT? Increase in PAT बहुत reason के लिए होता है. एक तो because of increase in AUM, increase in income, जो तो हो ही रहा है because they are expanding branches and moving to new geographies, like they have moved on to Orissa, Gujarat, and all that. Second is their provisions are coming down because asset quality is improving. With improving asset quality going forward, you would make less provisions, and less provisions means lesser expenses, and lesser expenses means a bigger boost in profit after tax. So when your PAT growth, again, like just a broken tape recorder, if your PAT growth is more than the AUM ka growth on a YOY basis, you know that your company has some sort of an operating leverage. Now again, look at the ROE number, 24%. This ROE number is driven by many things like improving asset quality, improving collections, as well as lending. Like even the customers of Credit Axis Grameen are also, like, started to pay back their previous loans and everything, right? Credit now this is CRAR. CRAR is nothing but capital risk adjusted ratio. This means like what is the strength of the balance sheet. So the capital adequacy ratio is 23.6%, which means that out of 100 rupees in the balance sheet, 23.6 rupees is in cash and in liquid assets. So the balance sheet is pretty strong for Credit Axis Grameen. And of course, you guys must have also seen it, like we always have to track asset quality both on YOY and a quarter on quarter basis. So you see, like these are the best kind of financials जिसका आप देखोगे ना, वो stock हमेशा all time high में रहते हैं. उनका दो चीजें होते हैं. एक तो they have operating leverage in the business, मतलब PAT का growth is more than AUM का growth, and of course AUM का growth in itself is at a double digit good rate, like 20-25%, जैसे इसका 26% है. दूसरा, you will see that the asset quality is improving both on a quarter on quarter and a YOY basis. Okay, so this is the performance guidance, like the management outlook, the slide that I make. CA Grameen is like a very good company. They make a guidance slide on themselves. So I didn't have to make a slide on myself. Look at this. Now they believe that the FY22 guidance on the loan book will be 25%. NIMs will be between 12 to 12.5%, and they expect the ROE number between 20 and 21%. So that means what? That means at this rate. And by the way, one of the best things about Credit Axis Grameen is, irrespective of the fact that they're into microfinance lending and into unsecured. By the way, when you are into unsecured lending, the upfront cost of acquiring the customer is pretty high. So the upfront cost of, let's say, getting customers to get a credit card is higher than the upfront cost of, say, for example, giving a home loan to anybody. So right, but having said that, the cost to income ratio for this financial is actually very good. It's one of the lowest in the microfinance industries. Generally, if you look at the cost to income ratio, because see, lower the cost to income is it means a higher impact on profitability and ROA and ROE numbers, right? And of course, if the return ratios stay high, one of the reasons for the return ratios to remain at a higher level is when you have a lower cost to income ratio. You would see one thing, that I'll give you an analogy to this. You would see the IDFC First ka stock has done very well. Why? Because A, the loan book has been growing at 20, 25, 30%, and IDFC First has moved on to a retail banking, right? They give more credit cards and all those things, like open credit card, personal loan, gold loan, and home loans and all that. More retail focus हो गया, तो उनका yield has also gone up, because previously IDFC was an infrastructure lending company, right? And I think if you guys follow that company, you would also know, right? If you go from infra, corporate to non-corporate and retail, your yields go up. दूसरा चीज what IDFC First has been doing very well is also to get the cost to income ratio down. तो उनका जो cost of income ratio था 5 years back, आज उससे कतई ज्यादा better है. I mean the percentage is coming down, and going forward as the bank scales, वो number और भी घटने वाला है. So this is why you see that the IDFC First का ROE number shot up from 1% to over 12%, right? I think 12 or 11% after Q4 FY23 ka numbers, if I'm not wrong. So that means what? In order to improve ROE, because with improving ROE improve हो रहा है, मतलब बाकी सब कुछ ठीक हो रहा है. You don't have to like go into deeper into details. But if you see the ROE number is going down, that means itne sare parameters, all the parameters that we check to analyze a financial, right? Whether it's NBFC or bank, koi na koi parameter itna bura ho gaya hai कि the overall ROE number and the profitability number is going down, right? शायद वो asset quality खराब हो, या disbursal rate कम हो गया हो, या फिर उसका growth in top line घट गया हो, या फिर say for example उनका कोई product segment काम नहीं कर रहा हो, या फिर उनका management का खर्चा बढ़ गया, कुछ इधर उधर हो गया, right? So there can be so many problems. But having said that, CA Grameen is another company that can aram say, like, can double its profit after tax in 3 years. And that is exactly what they're saying here in this one particular slide. So what is the management outlook here? Again, like this is again mostly taken from the con call transcript. So basically, this is a pure play microfinance player. So if you want to play a pure play microfinance institution, CA Grameen, Mass Financials, Arman, this is why I am actually covering all these companies, or IIFL Finance. They are mostly into catering into people who don't have access to formal credit, right? So that the Inca customers are not bank customers. Okay. So this is another pure play MFI, and I'm focusing more on NBFCs and MFI because this is where the tailwind is right now, and I think it will stay for the next 3, 4, 5 years at least. So what is the aim? Aim is to grow at 20-25% as was written there for the next 4 to 5 years. Now they are moving into new divisions, right? They are moving into two-wheeler, LAP, auto loans, and gold loans. So when the management was asked, they answered by the same way. Okay, say for example, if I'm giving microfinance loans to my customers, right, and my customer is using that income, I mean the customer is using the loan, churning the money well, and is making more and more money from his business. And then of course, when you make more money from the business, then you want to buy a bike, correct? Then you want to, let's say, buy a car, then you want to, let's say, buy a home, right? For that customer would then have to go to another microfinance to get that facility. So why would you leave the CA Grameen ka ecosystem, correct? So just so ensure that the customer stays in the ecosystem and stay in the ecosystem and be a customer. As the borrower grows, CA Grameen has introduced all these new divisions, right? But also, having said that, don't worry about it, because people ever think like, okay, you're moving from microfinance to auto loans, right? Then your yield will come down. Not necessarily, because kya hota hai, even if the yield comes down by 5-10% in auto loans, but your cost of acquiring the customer is also pretty low, because the customer is already with you, na? So there is no incremental cost to acquiring the customer. So even if you're getting a little bit of a less yield there, but your incremental cost kuch hai nahi, it's almost like zero. You're just cross selling your products now, right? So us tarike se agar aap dekhoge, so the NIMs are not affected. Asset quality continues to improve for the company. Now again, ROE in that range. CA Grameen is one of the lowest cost to income ratio in the entire microfinance industry. I believe this stock gets a price to book of 4 or 4.5. One of the main reasons is this, because they are a very, very good cost control machine, even when they are scaling up at 25-26%. Generally, if I look at microfinance companies ka cost to income, मैंने बहुत देखा in the north of 55 and 65%, but this has a cost to income of 35-34%, which is amazing. Everything back to pre-COVID levels for the business. You have seen that in terms of asset quality and everything. Plan to scale up the retail finance book and follow the customer. Follow the customer means, as I told you, right? Because the customer wants new loans as the customer becomes bigger and bigger in terms of status, in terms of making more money, right? So customer को जो bike चाहिए, घर चाहिए, और जो भी चीजें चाहिए, उसके लिए CA Grameen are making the other divisions as well. So looks to lend to the families of the employees of the NBFCs. This is an economic moat of Credit Axis Grameen. So basically, it's very fascinating, right? Since they know that their customers have a high chance, because there is a high chance of default, right? Because you're lending at the end of the day to the underserved people, rural people, right? So how do they mitigate that? मतलब let's say अगर कोई family में उन्होंने let's say एक loan दिया है, right? एक family household है, उनको loan दिया है, they ensure also कि उस family का एक बंदा CA ग्रामीण के employee बने. या दूसरे एंगल से सोचिए, all the employees of CA ग्रामीण के families को ये लोन देते हैं, because then you think about it will be a loss of face, right? Loss of face किस तरह से? Because if you're an employee and let's say CA Grameen has, if let's say I'm an employee and the company is given a loan to my father, right? And I'm getting paid by the company. So kal if my father defaults, I would lose my face in front of my colleagues, right? That my father has defaulted, right? Because of course the loan officer will go there, the collection agents will come back and say, your father is defaulted, go talk to him, right? That is why it's such a brilliant innovative scheme. This is at par with the whole getting all the women together and giving the money in front of the other women, right? Because these are the things that are played on the face of trust, and on the page, and on the more than anything, more than collateral. So I would tell you, people don't want to lose their इज्जत, जो हिंदी में बोलते हैं ना कि हमें अपना इज्जत नहीं गंवाना है, and these are the kind of companies like Arman, Mass and CA Grameen जो इज्जत पे खेलता है, right? तो यही बनता है the competitive advantage of Credit Axis Grameen. Okay, now let's move on to the next company, Fusion Microfinance, another microfinance company. Now let's understand the business model. What are the kind of customers? So they're a group lending model, but catering exclusively to women. So agar, let's say for example, Fusion Microfinance may, if you are a man, then they won't give you a loan, right? You have to be a woman and you have to be a part of the joint lending group. Then only you will get loans. This is the niche of this one particular company. Okay, so how do they, again the same logic, right? Not going deeper into the business model, but these women are given the loans so that they can start generating income on their own, whether it's cattle business, milk business, or open a kirana stores, just like that. So what they do is this: first, in the first attempt, let's say out of 10 women, they give 10,000 to 40,000 ke beech mein loan to each woman. Okay, and then they see how the women are using that money. Are they giving the money back on time? Are they paying the interest back on time? So the women who does a good job in the first cycle of the loan, in the next cycle they are offered a larger ticket size. Right now, this is the difference between a Fusion Microfinance and a Arman. What Arman would do is Arman won't give much of a large ticket size item. Arman would look for more women. Got it? But here यहाँ पे क्या कर रहे हैं, यहाँ पे trust वहां पे कर रहा है कि like, okay, if you can give me back my 40,000 rupees with interest on time, next time I would look to give you up to 80,000 rupees. Got it? So this is the difference there. This is the difference between this model and let's say an Arman or a Credit Axis Grameen. I think this is the fifth NBFC we are covering, and every model we will understand कि इनका business model थोड़ा थोड़ा करके it looks very similar, but then if you look at the customer ka status, the ticket size and the geographies therein, it's actually very different as well, right? So this is how you need to analyze NBFCs, how one NBFC is different from the other. So what is the effective interest rates on loan? 22.65%. So of course, right, they are dealing with women in the village areas, so they're taking a lot of risk. And since it's small ticket size item, again same logic, right? Small ticket size item आपको देना ही पड़ेगा, and the yield is very very high, 22.6%. So the loans are given in these following spaces. Again, of course, they're given to women so that they can get into all these businesses and they can start buying cattle for milk, crop cultivation, poultry. They also give up to MSME loans bhi dete hain. MSME loans is of course no, like let's say for example, if you want to open a shop and they give out loans up to 15 lakhs. Okay, so यहाँ पे if you see this, Fusion Microfinance is spread. Now this is the difference again, right? Now I don't want to buy a company like Fusion Microfinance because they're already spread across the country. So I have an issue with say the growth rate of this company, rate of growth. I am more comfortable with a Mass or an Arman, right? Because they are only in 7-8 states. Here, if you see, they're into mostly all the states. Correct? I mean, they are not into Karnataka and Andhra and Telangana, and of course in Jammu. But apart from that, they are mostly present across the entire geography. So inka rate of growth of their AUM ka book might not be as high as the rate of growth of the AUM of let's say an Arman or a Mass Financial. Okay, so now the results. I mean, of course, don't get stunned by these numbers. Ke pat up like 767%, because in the last fiscal in Q4 FY22, the base became very small because these are the kind of companies that had to do a lot of provisions. So from FY21 to FY22, they had to provide for a lot of loans. So as a result of which, their PAT numbers became very small. So on that small base, you see a number which is now very, very high, right? But having said that, look how good the company has become again. Like it has come back from COVID. How do you know that? The ROE number is at 20%. GNPA number, again, GNPA is gross NPA. Gross NPA is 90 days or above. So that has also improved on QOQ and YOY. So if you are improving on a quarter on quarter and a YOY basis, I am happy. That means you're coming out of COVID in a good way. Here also you see another good thing is the cost of income is pretty low. It's 36% and at par with Credit Axis Grameen. Now again, having said that, look at the AUM ka growth. AUM grew 37% YOY, which is a pretty impressive rate, and 8% on a quarter-on-quarter basis. So if you look at this, all the metrics have improved for Fusion Microfinance. Okay, now let's understand what the management said on the call. So of course, like they launched the MSME business recently. Again, same logic, right? Because if your customer, Jinko, you're paying 40,000, 30,000, 80,000, right? So, and the customer is doing well in life, right? And the customer wants to grow and wants to open a bigger business, open 2 new stores. For that, you need to pay him, let's say, a loan up to 15 lakhs or 10 lakhs. Oh, I'm so sorry. Ah, so that's why they had to launch the MSME business. Just like Credit Axis Grameen had to launch the other businesses like, gold loan and car loan and all that. So it's just that so that the customer doesn't leave these NBFCs as they, grow bigger. When I say customer, I mean borrowers. Okay. So low penetration in states like UP. So now can you think about this? Now this is what exactly what they're trying to say in terms of penetration of credit in this country. So UP has a population of 20 crore, right? And the credit penetration in UP is only 16%. So if you look at this, I mean, if you look at 10% of population of UP is 2 crore, 20% is 4 crore, right? So 16% of pakad lo 3 crore, mota moti, ठीक है? So can you think about this? Out of 20 crore, the credit penetration in UP is only 3 crore. 17 करोड़ पीपल अभी भी है जिनको क्रेडिट नहीं मिलता है फ्रॉम सोच मतलब उनको आइदर वो लोकल मनी लेंडर के पास जाना पड़ता है या फिर दे डोंट हैव एक्सेस टू मनी दिस इज जस्ट वन स्टेट इन यूपी नाउ कैन यू थिंक ऑफ 31 स्टेट्स इन इंडिया सो दैट्स व्हाट आई एम ट्राइंग टू टेल यू के लाइक अगर ये माइक्रो फाइनेंस का प्लेस विद दिस लो मार्केट कैप and growth at 20, 30, 40%. They can even grow at this pace for 4, 5, 6 years. Provided, of course, we don't have a COVID kind of a situation that halts the growth rate in the middle. Okay, so now can you see again they're so bullish about the outlook. They talk about ROA maintaining between 4.75, 4.5, ROE also around 20%. Asset quality has to improve, right? Or else none of this entire discussion makes any sense. So if it improves, if it continues improving on a quarter-on-quarter YOY basis, I'm very happy. Client base ka growth is 29% YOY, like AUM ka growth was 37% YOY. It is mostly in line with that. Again, rural portfolio. So whatever geographies you saw, mostly, matlab, this is why I took my this fusion company with Credit Access because they are both rural backed MFIs in India. Okay, so 93% is rural, and of course you saw in that map, right? They are looking to enter AP and Telangana and increase more penetration in Bihar and UP because AP Telangana में वो लोग हैं नहीं. ठीक है, branch expansion at 16%. Branch expansion can't happen at that a big pace because, again, having said that, because they're already spread across the country and they have, I think, more than 1,000 branches. So MSME division to retain good MFI customers and give you. I think I've already discussed this. If you're a good MFI customer, you would need more money in the future, right? That is why they have made the MSME division because microfinance का तो rule है ना RBI का. You cannot give a loan up beyond a particular ticket size. I think it is up to 3 lakh rupees you can give, right? उसके ऊपर if you have to give a ticket size, it can't be a microfinance loan. It has to be a MSME or an SME loan, right? And of course, this is what the company management said, that this entire microfinance space in India can grow at 18-20% for the next few years. And I can tell you there's another company called Satin Credit Care. It's also a microfinance company. The management has actually even more quantified this. They said the microfinance sector can grow 5 times the current level in the next 5 years. So everybody is bullish about it, but सबका numbers देने का तरीका अलग है. Okay, so now let's move on to 5-star finance. 5-star finance अगर हम देखेंगे तो अगेन किस तरीके के लोगों को कस्टमर्स को केटर करते हैं माइक्रो फाइनेंस और किस टाइप का लोन देते हैं. सो द बिजनेस केटर्स टू स्मॉल शॉप ओनर्स, सेल्फ एम्प्लॉयड एंड कैश सैलरीड सेगमेंट फॉर द लास्ट 20 years. मतलब क्या, ये जो स्मॉल शॉप ओनर्स और सेल्फ एम्प्लॉयड लोग हैं और ये जो कैश सैलरीड वाला लोग है, ये लोग सब टायर 3, 4, 5, 6 सिटीज रूरल एरियाज में जनरली वो जो ब्लू कलर जॉब्स होते हैं ना, वो ब्लू कलर जॉब्स का बात कर रहे हैं. वहां पे जैसे कोई फैक्ट्री का कोई फ्लोर में काम करने वाला एक लेबर हो, मजदूर हो, या समथिंग फॉर एग्जांपल कोई रियल एस्टेट में कंस्ट्रक्शन वर्कर हो, ये उस तरीके का कैश सैलरी का बात कर रहा है जहां पे अगेन कच्चा बिल होता है. इनका कोई क्रेडिट रिपोर्ट नहीं होता है, इनका कोई जनरली इनका बैंक्स के साथ भी कोई रिश्ता नहीं होता है, राइट? अगेन इफ यू सी दिस, द लोन बुक इज 6,900 crore, right? Branches are 373. Now let's understand the loan book का breakup, right? Which we always do, right? Loan book का breakup में 60% of loans देते हैं तो single shop owners. तो generally अगर 5-star finance क्या है, अगर आप कोई आपसे पूछे कि लाइक जैसे फ्यूजन क्या है, तो आप बोलोगे औरतों को लोन देने वाला, औरतों को ग्रुप में लोन देने वाला कंपनी. और अगर आपसे कोई पूछता है व्हाट इज 5-star फाइनेंस, आप बोलना किराना स्टोर्स, फ्लावर शॉप, दुकानदार को लोन देने वाला कंपनी. तो 60% ऑफ द लोन बुक्स आर गिवन टू सिंगल शॉप ओनर्स. देखो इवन द मेंशन इज आल्सो सिंगल शॉप ओनर्स, मतलब अगर मल्टीपल शॉप हुआ तो शायद वो नहीं देंगे, राइट? सो इतने छोटे लेवल पे, इतने नीश लेवल पे जाते हैं. द सिंगल शॉप ओनर्स लाइक किराना, फ्लावर, फूड वेंडर्स, फार्मास्यूटिकल डीलर्स, इनका दुकान के लिए होता है. 25% of the loans are given to self-employed people. मतलब अब यहाँ पे they mentioned one thing in the call. When they say self-employed, it's not self-employed doctors and engineers. यहाँ पे सेल्फ एम्प्लॉयड का मतलब है प्लम्बर्स एंड पेंटर्स। समझ में आया? लेट्स से फॉर एग्जांपल बजाज फाइनेंस भी डॉक्टर्स एंड इंजीनियर्स को बहुत लोन देते हैं, ठीक है? अगर आपने बजाज फाइनेंस ट्रैक किए हो, वी आर डूइंग इट हियर बिकॉज बजाज फाइनेंस यहाँ पे स्कोप ज्यादा दिखता है मुझे, बट ऑल्सो हैविंग सेड दैट प्लम्बर्स एंड पेंटर्स भी सेल्फ एम्प्लॉयड होते हैं, बट ये ज्यादा रिस्की कैटेगरी में आते हैं, इसलिए तो ऑफकोर्स यू कैन लेंड एट अ हायर पेस, राइट? यील्ड ज्यादा होते हैं और यही पे इनका they have built a niche. And 15% of the loan is given to the salaried class like wage labor working in shop floors and factories. Okay, so what is the specialization of 5 star? I mean, the specialization is as the specialization of the other companies we did, assessing credit flows of customers without documentation proof. And customers deal with kacha bill in their business. This is the same logic with CA Grameen or Fusion or the other companies that we did, right? IIFL and all that. यहाँ पे proper documentation नहीं होते. So this is also a risk as well. How to mitigate the risk? The answer is volume. That is why you need millions of customers को ये लोग छोटे छोटे ticket item देते हैं. So on a net basis, the money they make is more than the money they lose, and इस तरह से वो business बढ़ता है. Okay, now look at this. Numbers are pretty good actually. If you look at the loan book ka growth, 11% quarter on quarter, 37% YOY, right? The company has operating leverage as well because PAT growth is more than loan book, right? But here is a problem here, right? They're a very conservative lender with a debt to equity of around 1 to 1.5 times, right? तो सोचो इसलिए इसका ROE number मुझे उतना अच्छा नहीं लगता है, only 15%. This is why I haven't invested in this NBFC. Although I like the management, although I like how they are going about it, but if your ROE number is 15%, that means what? So what is the formula of ROE? ROE is equal to ROA into debt by equity, matlab ROA into leverage, ठीक है? So you have to take in more leverage, right, to increase your ROE. But अगर आप देखोगे Arman can grow at 40% and have an ROE of 33% in FY23 because Arman works at a gearing ratio or a debt to equity ratio of 5 times. Right, so Arman is a very aggressive player. I need aggression as well, right? Because if the microfinance sector is coming back up and you are telling me that you are not taking more debt because अगर आप ज़्यादा पैसा नहीं उठाओगे, तो how will you grow your book in the long run? Although the book is growing pretty well, but going forward, you can't make a lot of money for your shareholders if your ROE is only 15%. Generally देखा गया है, if your ROE is a one particular percentage and that percentage remains constant, going forward stock उतना ही return देते हैं CAGR basis में. So if the ROE number is 15% for the next 5 years, then the stock will double in 5 years, right? So that's ऊपर नीचे करके ultimately उतना ही return देता है. So your ROE dictates कि आप किस दिशा में जा रहे हो. So, but then having said that, asset quality has improved both on quarter and YOY. So कोई negative कुछ नहीं है, but the only thing that I don't like about it is कि like they have to be more aggressive because if they go up to 3 times the book, the ROE can go up to north of 20%. Okay, so this is again the con call updates and everything. Again, you can see this. Again, the cost to income ratio is come because again, this is a company that I tell you, I really like what 5-star does with a low cost to income ratio, high asset quality, employee addition is happening at 28%, right? Because a company which is adding employees at 28% YOY, it clearly shows that it has a lot of work in hand, right? Employees ka growth also give you such a good idea. Also remember when we covered the non-financials, we look at the employee expenses. So if your employee expenses are coming down, that means in future you're not expecting that much work or you're exploiting your employees. So in either case, the growth will not sustain going forward. So here also you can clearly see here, right? If you look at point number 9, right? What did I tell you? ROE is equal to ROA into leverage, right? So here you see 15 is equal to 8.6 into X. X is that leverage of the gearing, which is 1 to 1.5, right? 1.5 pakad lo. So 8.6 into 1.5 मोटा मोटी 14-15% होता है, right? So that means what? That is the thing, right? And why is your ROA number very high? Think about this. ROA का formula है net income divided by asset, correct? So net income divided by, but asset का दो हिस्सा होता है ना, liability plus equity. Now, since they are taking so less loans, मतलब so less liability है, उनका denominator is very small. The asset part is very small, right? Because two source of capital होता है, liability and equity. दोनों को लेके ही तो asset बनता है ना, correct? So if the liability part is very small, as indicated by the debt to equity ratio 1 to 1.5, so since liability plus equity, my liability is so small, so then the denominator is so less, so the ROA number looks 8.6. This is why I don't like this as well. You would look at this company called Aptus. When we do Aptus value housing, na, so the same problem lies with Aptus as well. Aptus cannot grow more than 20-22% Why? Because the ROA number is very high and the ROE number is low. You know what do I exactly want? I actually want the ROA number to come down and the ROE number to go up. कैसे? Because ROA का formula क्या है? फिर से सोचो. Net income divided by debt plus equity, because that's asset, right? Asset को मैं break करके बता रहा हूँ. If you take more debt, right, then the ROA number starts coming down because the denominator का debt वाला part starts going up. Equity, चलो let's say if you take constant FY23 का equity, so then the ROA number goes down. But having said that, once you take more money from the market and you can deploy more money, then your ROE number क्या है? Net income divided by equity, right? Only shareholder equity. So equity तो बढ़ नहीं रहा है, right? But यहाँ पे once you are deploying more money from the market, debt बढ़ा के, अब जब ज्यादा पैसे बना रहे हो तो return on equity में net income तो बढ़ रहा है, correct? So in the ROE format, in the ROE formula, net income goes up with constant equity. So that's why you understand I would need a financial with an ROA number of around, अगर मैं इस कंपनी का बात करूं, 5-star business finance, I'll start buying the stock if I see that the ROA number has started coming down to 3-4% and the ROE number has gone, north of 20%. Of course, ये दोनों चीज एक साथ होनी चाहिए, because if the ROE number is constant and the ROA number is coming down, that means what? That means the debt that you're raising, extra debt that you're raising from the market, उसको आप अच्छे से deploy करके पैसा नहीं बना पा रहे हो, इसीलिए तो ROE में net income नहीं बढ़ रहा है. Got it? Which is the numerator. So this is the whole point, right? And I hope this is clear, right? It's pretty and it's pretty logical. आपको इस तरह से सोचना पड़ेगा. You don't need a pen and paper to like make sense. So every quarter when you track a financial, just look at the ROA and the ROE number का movement and see कि like वहां पे उनका gearing ratio, leverage का क्या contribution हो रहा है. So here you can see management sees ROE trajectory going up every quarter. Now this is exactly what I would also want to see, right? If I see the ROE number going up, that means I know with scale and with taking more gearing, I mean more leverage from the market, more taking debt, ROE number will also come down. So in the subsequent quarters, if I see that the ROE number is coming down, the ROE number is coming up, and the gearing ratio is going up, I would probably want to buy this stock. So that's how I'm looking at it. Okay, so that's the thing. और तो कुछ है नहीं, like collection efficiency is more than 100% now. That clearly shows कि we have come out of COVID, and जिन लोगों ने COVID के time collections में problem हो रहा था, for those borrowers, they have come back up and they are now paying more than just the monthly EMI. That's why the efficiency is more than 100%. And of course, improvements across all the DPD buckets. DPD means days past due buckets, 30 day, 60 day, 90 day buckets. So when you see improvement across DPD buckets, that means going forward, your NPA, future NPA will be lower than your current NPA. So that's if you see the DPD buckets, because if you see 31 to 60 day buckets, the DPD are going up. That means going forward, your NPA number will be higher, right? So that is why, how do you project your future NPA? Just by look at the current buckets. Okay, like the number of borrowers who haven't paid 1 EMI, number of borrowers who haven't paid 2 EMI, number of borrowers who haven't paid 3 EMI. मतलब consecutive का बात कर रहा हूँ मैं. So if you see number of borrowers who haven't paid 2 EMIs, if let's say the number is 10 today, and last year in the same quarter it was 50. So that means what? Going forward, मतलब 40 लोगों ने दे दिया, right? अब सिर्फ 10 बचा है, पहले 50 था. इसका मतलब going forward you can automatically say the asset quality, because जब आप NPA का calculation करते हो, NPA का number when you see in an Excel sheet or you see in a investor presentation, it's a historical data number. But with the DPD buckets, you can actually figure out going forward where is the trend of NPA headed. So if I see that there is improvement across DPD buckets, going forward your asset quality is only going to improve both on quarter and a YOY basis. Okay, so this is the management outlook here. Now, this is the main thing. That's why they started the call by saying, like, yes, they can improve the ROE to north of 20% by improving the debt to equity to 4 to 4.5x. Now you understand, like the जो मैं हिसाब बोल रहा था, correct? And see, and they also anticipate that the ROA number will come from 8.5 to 6.5% in the future. Now, do you understand how this works, right? The ROA number coming down from 8.5 to 6.5, and the ROE number to go from 15% to 20% by improving the debt to equity ratio. Because again, let me remind you, ROE is equal to ROA into leverage. ये आप समझ गए ना, तो I think you will be able to understand and analyze any financial company in the world, whether bank or NBFC or doesn't matter. So this is the kind of thing that this company has to do, and of course they will also get operating leverage. So they're looking to grow at 30% comfortably in the next 2 to 3 years. That's a good actually guidance, right? तो अगर हम देखेंगे कि like जैसे अरमान हो गया, CA हो गया, मतलब क्रेडिट एक्सिस ग्रामीण हो गया, I mean, not Arman, sorry, Mass Financials and Credit Access Grameen, they're looking for 20 and 25%, but they're looking to go at 30%. So if they can do this, like if they can actually execute what they said in point one and point two, right? I'm pretty sure the stock is going to make a lot of money for its shareholders. That is why I want to buy this business, but I still can't because I really want to see how the ROE ka direction is moving. So let's see after Q1 when I do the workshop, we'll probably have better idea. So next, say for example, again like 5 star का थोड़ा इधर उधर का knowledge है कि like they split branches after a certain threshold accounts and asset is reached. So say for example, अगर एक branch का 1000 accounts बन जाता है, then they split it into let's say two other branches जहाँ पे 500 होता है. Why do they do that? Because the point is they believe कि like एक अगर branch पे ज्यादा pressure आएगा तो वहां से NPA बढ़ सकता है, right? वहां पे ज्यादा collection का problem हो सकता है. So whenever they see a lot of traction in one branch, they would open 2-3 nearby branches and distribute those accounts. And also it's because of the fact कि like जो नया वाला branch खोलेगा उसका भी वो भी start करेगा with 200 accounts, तो वो branch का break even भी जल्दी हो जाएगा. That's the whole logic of doing this. Predominantly a South India based lender with good growth coming from Andhra, Telangana. Last year 5 star set up a lot of branches at Andhra, right? So पिछले कंपनी हमने देखा कि वो आंध्रा में है ही नहीं, फ्यूजन, राइट? और ये है अल्टीमेटली आंध्रा का ही राजा. तो इसीलिए लास्ट ईयर दे सेट अप अ लॉट ऑफ ब्रांचेस इन आंध्रा. इसी वजह से आंध्रा का ग्रोथ बहुत अच्छे से आ रहा है. And now they're looking to enter Gujarat and Rajasthan. So these are the kind of things that you should really take into consideration. If I am taking a small microfinance company with a low market cap and who are giving a good growth target of let's say 30% and all that, they should be looking to entering new geographies because existing geographies से तुम्हारा को होने का नहीं है. So now if you see, if they are trying to grow at 30% in the next 2 to 3 years, because they have set up great number of branches in Andhra, looking to get into Gujarat and Rajasthan, which are, I mean, Gujarat is of course one of the richest states in the country. So of course they will be able to do it. And especially if they can get the ROE north of 20 and the ROA less than 6%, then that will be amazing by increasing the leverage. So target tier 3 to tier 6 towns and disturb the credit system with more than 25,000 people. So ये लोग वही करते हैं, tier 3 और tier 6 towns में ये लोग target करते हैं, ठीक है? They don't go for those big cities here. And can you see here, they also don't go for those villages as well. Villages are let's say beyond tier 7 cities, right? जहाँ पे credit access ग्रामीण है, right? So यहाँ पे ये लोग बीच का माल है, वो tier 3 and tier 6, right? जैसे banks है between, say for example, you know, metropolitan to let's say tier 2, वो है banks. ये हो गया आपका टायर 3 टू टायर 6 and say for example tier 7 and villages हो गए credit access ग्रामीण का. So that's why you see like मतलब all the NBFCs look very similar but they're so different when you like dig deeper. Fintechs are no threat to 5 star. So what do fintechs do here? Generally fintechs provide short term working capital loan, right? So banks जैसे आपको short term working capital loan देंगे, fintech देंगे, जबकि 5 star gives you long tenure loan to start a business, right? So you saw that, right? I mean if I can just go back, 5 स्टार का जैसे आप देख रहे हो ना, सिंगल शॉप ओनर, किराना शॉप, फ्लावर शॉप एंड ऑल दैट, तो किराना का दुकान खोलने में भी कितना टाइम लगता है, राइट? सो 5 स्टार का एक और चीज है कि दे गिव लो टिकट साइज या हाई टिकट साइज हो, मीडियम टिकट साइज हो, बट दे गिव लॉन्ग टेन्योर लोन्स, राइट? जनरली अगर आप देखोगे द डिफरेंस, अदर डिफरेंस बिटवीन 5 स्टार एंड द अदर एनबीएफसीज इज के लाइक अदर एनबीएफसीज वुड वांट योर मनी बैक क्विकली, राइट? कि 1 महीने में दे दो, 3 महीने में दे दो, तो जितना जल्दी, द फास्टर यू वांट योर मनी बैक, द मोर the nature of the loan is working capital, right? But if you are giving a long tenure loan to somebody to let them to start a flower shop, build the infrastructure, you know, improve distribution and do all this selling and all that, and then you start paying off, then it's basically like you're an entrepreneurial NBFC, which I believe this company is, which is 5 star finance. So we have done 3 companies here. I mean, I can stop the presentation here. Yeah. So all that I'm trying to say is like now we have covered like two NBFC workshops, right? We have covered 6 NBFC companies. So now you see, right, like they are so different, right? With different growth outlooks, different geography, different kinds of customers, different kind of segments that they lend in, and different kind of loans, different kind of policies as well. So here there is nothing good or bad here. The reason why I cover all these things is like NBFCs are the flavor of the season right now, and not a flavor short term flavor, because COVID हो गया, GST हो गया, demonetization हो गया. और अगर आप देखोगे ये जो space है, this NBFC space struggled a lot. You saw, right, how the asset quality was bad, right, during COVID for CA, Grameen or Mass or everything. And also I've ensured that I've showed you that last 5 years ka data in terms of asset quality, and can you see that everybody has improved, right? So all these NBFCs, right, which have low market cap, low AUM, targeting to grow at 25, 35, even Arman has even said 40%, right? So if you are a retail investor who are starting with a small capital, अगर आपको स्टॉक मार्केट में बड़ा बनना है तो आपको इस तरीके का फाइनेंशियल्स को पकड़ना है ओवर बाइंग एन एचडीएफसी बैंक एंड डिस्कस एंड वेस्ट टाइम ऑन एचडीएफसी एंड एचडीएफसी बैंक मर्जर. क्या होगा? 20-25 लाख करोड़ का लोन बुक का लेके आप कहां जाओगे, राइट? सो दीज आर द काइंड ऑफ थिंग्स दैट यू नीड टू टेक इनटू कंसीडरेशन. बट हैविंग सेड दैट, दिस इज पार्ट ऑफ एक्टिव इन्वेस्टिंग. इफ यू आर इन्वेस्टेड इन दीज काइंड ऑफ बिजनेसेस, यू हैव टू ट्रैक दिस मॉडल्स वेरी वेरी केयरफुली, बिकॉज प्रॉब्लम आएगा तो हमें भागना पड़ेगा, ठीक है? लेकिन हैविंग सेड दैट, पैसा बनता है तो यही पैसा बनेगा. एचडीएफसी बैंक और कोटक महिंद्रा बैंक लेके पैसा नहीं बनेगा. सो दैट्स द होल पॉइंट. एक बार जब आप पैसा बना लोगे लाइफ में ना, देन यू कैन पुट योर मनी इन एचडीएफसी बैंक. सो दिस इज द डिफरेंस व्हाई आई एम कवरिंग these institutes here in Q4. After Q4, then say for example, studying about HDFC Bank and unka wahi 19-20 kahani, right? So on that note, I hope you guys understood and learned more about it. Use these parameters when you're analyzing any NBFC going forward, so so your life becomes much easier. On that note, thank you so much. अगले वर्कशॉप के लिए मिलते हैं.